Hello, welcome to my dining room. This is the Live and Learn Knitting Podcast. Knitting for now, other things later. Today is Thursday, December 28th, 2023. We're at the end of our year. And my name is Anne or Annie, and I live in western Wisconsin on the banks of the Mississippi River. This is episode 9. We're going to call it Tying Up Loose Ends and Looking Ahead to 2024. So first of all, what I'm wearing, this is the Hitchhiker shawl by Martina Behm, and I talked about this in episode 5. So if you want to go back and look at that, if you didn't see it, you'll find all about Martina Behm and the wonderful Hitchhiker pattern. And I wore it today because it's got a little bit of sparkle in, and New Year's festive, sparkly time. Or winter snowflakes, who knows? We don't have snow here, so I need to bring the snow. So that's what's going on. And as far as the living, it was a good holiday, good Christmas, and I'm taking a break between Christmas and New Year's and not doing too many things. But I had a chance to see family and friends and spend some good time with just watching old movies and relaxing, and I'm hoping to continue that also to do some other things. So I didn't get everything done, but that's okay. There seemed to be a lot of information out there this year, at least that I saw, about it's okay if you just want to relax and say no and not do things, and it seemed more geared toward the introverts this year, which I enjoyed that, and maybe a bit more towards just people who have challenges as far as social obligations and what have you. So I don't know when that focus shifted, but I appreciate it, I guess, is a good thing to say. And before we go too much further, I just want to point out back here, you see my orange tree? It has oranges on it. It's just a little, they're tiny, they're smaller than golf balls. And I didn't know when I first got that tree, maybe almost 30 years ago now, that I tried peeling one and eating it, and it was very bitter and very sour. And I thought, oh, these are no good. And it had a lot of seeds too. And then I have since learned that this variety, which I think, I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember it. I'll put it in the show notes. It's actually a cross between an orange and a kumquat. And with a kumquat, you eat the skin. And that was a little challenging, but I did it, and yeah, the skin is sweet and the inside is tart, and the combination together is perfect. So I'm looking forward. I had one already, and I gave one to a friend, and I'll be having a few more because they're ripe now, which is fun. I like a tree that brings its own ornaments to the holidays. So what else? Oh, and then on the learning side of Live and Learn, it's going to be a bit more philosophical this week, not technical knitting learning, but just philosophical. So, and one last thing before we get into that, a holiday thank you. I received a very nice package from a fiber friend. I've not met Helen Maudsley in person, but I consider her a fiber friend. And she sent me a very nice package from Canada. She lives in Western Alberta, and her website is maudsleyfiberarts.ca. I will link to that. She does amazing woodworking and wood turning, and she's very scholarly knitter and needle worker, and does intricate, delicate, prolific projects, and writes about them. She's had articles published in Piecework and I believe Spin-Off. She had one of her shawls in the 52 Weeks of Shawl book. So she's a great fiber artist, and it's fun to know her and get to chat with her online. So she sent me couple skeins of yarn from Canada, which is fun. This is Smiling Sheep, Happy Decay. And I love the colors. It's, very denim and gray. It's nice. It's called Harp Dog is the name of the fiber, the name of the colorway. And so this is extra fine merino, hand dyed in Canada. She sent that, and then she sent a shawl pin that she made. This is, I thought about wearing it today, but I want this one with the blue, just really, it matches the blue really well. So I have another shawl I haven't worn yet that this will be perfect for. So that'll come up in the future, because I want to talk about that project as well one of these days. So thank you so much, Helen. It's so great to reconnect with you online, and yeah, and I'll be picking your brain in the future for I have some questions for you, so be prepared. And okay, that's that. This is gonna be a little rough and tumble. I just made these notes up this morning. I kind of knew what I wanted to say, but just put everything together. So yeah, and it's a conversation. That's what we have here, and it's just going to be a nice quiet one today. So tying up some loose ends, I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure if I showed this in a past episode as a finished project. I don't think I did, but this is the Berroco knit along cowl that I made for their knit along, and I ended up I started out downloading a pattern from their website, and I was going to follow that, and I didn't really care for it, and I can't remember why. It just wasn't, it wasn't showing up the contrast enough for me. So I kind of did my own thing instead. So this is a little zigzag colorwork motif, and this yarn is, it was double-stranded Cosma, which is the main color, the rust color, and then the colorwork part of it is Millefiori Light. And I did both of those double-stranded. They matched up really well. Sadly, they're not making Cosma anymore. They're not selling Cosma anymore. You can still find it in people's stashes on Ravelry. And, maybe at your local yarn shops. I know a local yarn shop who has other Berroco yarns that are not, they're discontinued, and they still have their stock. They haven't quite eliminated it yet. So, check around. Yeah, it was a very nice yarn, and this is very soft and good for winter. I haven't worn it too much yet. I've been wearing a different one, but this will get in the rotation quickly. So I wanted to show you that. That's a finished, a loose end to tie up, show you the finished item, and which I talked about in episode 3.5, when Berroco had launched their knit along. And then I want to talk about the make-alongs and the Advent. Yeah, I am not a good make-alonger. I've done it a couple times. Well, this was a make-along, and I did okay, because that's a small project, and it was, yeah, it was good. But gosh, the totally tessellated Andrea Mowry socks to make in a Thanksgiving weekend, I didn't have time to do that. We were cooking and eating and cooking and eating and watching movies, and this is as far as I got with my sock. And I really like how it's turning out. Let's just have a close-up. It's a little hairy. That one yarn, the light green yarn, it has got a lot of hair to it, which is weird because it's an acrylic. But it's coming along really well. It's just, it is a little fiddly for me. And I'm not sure why, because it's very basic pattern, but it's just something I need to pay a bit more attention to than straight knitting. I'm enjoying it, and I need to get back to it, and I will. It's actually the second sock project, number 2 in the sock lineup. So yeah, I didn't, I didn't get it done in the make-along time, but that's okay. I think I knew from the get-go that I wouldn't have the time during the holiday. But I like that she did a cuff-down sock. I did one pair of toe-up socks once, and I know that's what Andrea Mowry likes to do a little bit more. So I was happy that she did a cuff-down one. Another time I'll try another toe-up one. My other Fiber Online friend, Jane, taught us in a little group Zoom lesson. And Jane's out in Baltimore. She works for Lovely Yarns Yarn Shop, and she did a little tutorial with us on how to do toe-up socks. And if you ever get a chance to take a class from Jane in Baltimore, please do. She's a good teacher. Yeah, she's doing some private lessons, which I think is kind of fun. She explains things very well. So that was the tessellated socks. The Arnie and Carlos Advent Christmas stocking. Well, this is toe up. And this is as far as I got. Yeah. There's my, I'm kind of on the needles there, but there's my heel, waist yarn in there for the, I'm going to do an afterthought heel instead of their short row heel, as I just wasn't sure how it was going to look. And I was leery of, I want the heel I want. So I'll put that heel in later. And then I got stalled. I was still, working a bit past that heel spot. And I stalled out just because other things were a little more important and urgent, I guess I should say. And I knew, I thought I would work on this more during the Christmas holiday. And so I might pull that out today and work some more on it. I don't know if I'll even get it done by New Year's. Possibly. We'll see. We'll see. I like to finish up things by New Year's. That might be possible. But no pressure. It can get done when it gets done. And I actually also started another from the cuff down because I thought I might make that same pattern from the cuff down, but I was waiting to see if there were any motifs in their stocking that were directional, and there are. The pattern is out now. I think it's a pay-for pattern now. It was free during the knit-along, but I think it's turned into a pay-for pattern on Ravelry. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, there were some directional motifs. There were hearts, there were dancers, or boys and girls, men and women. Maybe they weren't dancing, but they were on there. So yeah, I think instead of doing their motifs, I might just have some fun and create my own stocking with some different colorwork motifs. And that's not anything that needs to be finished quickly either, so I'll take some time with that. Then there was the Scrappy Advent Swap that Creabea Rebecca Clow set up, and I've been opening my packages that Sandra from Rhode Island sent me, and I haven't started anything yet. I waited until Christmas Day so they could be the 12 days of Christmas for me, and I've been opening them just because nothing really leapt to mind as far as what kind of a project to make, and I want to see everything laid out. So it's fun to open one every day, and kind of is helping me decide. Every day I get a little more of a decision made on which direction I'm going to go, if I'm going to use all of the Scrappy, it's every skein, mini skein is 10 to 12 grams. And then there were a couple larger ones. So yeah, I might use them individually in things. A couple of them looked like good Christmas ornament colors, and that was what popped into my head. Or I might put them all together in one. I'm not sure yet. So I'm planning a little bit, every day, rather than actually knitting. So let's see. Oh, and then the spinning, my idea of doing an Advent spin, whew, I did one day. I opened one of those packets, and my bobbins on, I have an Ashford Traveler, a single treadle, Ashford Traveler. That was a kit that I put together back in the early 90s, and it only has 2-ounce bobbins. And I think I made those balls. I still don't remember how many grams I put in each one, but the first day of spinning, so they must have been 1 ounce or close to it, 20 grams maybe, but it just about filled up, or half filled up a bobbin. So I thought, shoot, this is going to be a lot of yarn. Yeah, and I was having problems. It was over twisting a lot, and so I thought it wasn't bringing me joy, so I kind of let that one fall and did, yeah, one day, and I was going to catch up, and then I didn't. That's okay. It's still there. It'll still be fun when I get to it. Might even just leave it for next year. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe I'll just turn it into another project for another day. So that was, yeah, that's all of the Advent, you know. I bit off more than I could chew there. And make-alongs are just not necessarily for me. Not all of them, anyway. Let's say that. Not all of them. Some of them work. Most of them I just have a challenge with. And I'm not sure why. If it's just the not knowing, you know, if it's a mystery one, well, that's a big part of it, the not knowing. Maybe the other is just keeping up with it too. It's hard to carve out big chunks of time to dedicate to that. Maybe it's a Murphy's Law kind of thing. I think I'm going to have that kind of time or that commitment, and then, you know, other things have they call to me and like, oh no, come do this and work on this, and here, start this project instead, or finish this project instead. So yeah, it's fun, but it's maybe a bit too much pressure for me, I think. So I set my own goals a lot, and that's what we'll talk about in a bit. And I fail on those too sometimes. So, yeah, goal setting is a challenge. Let me know. Is it a challenge for you? Do you have good methods on setting and sticking to goals? That's a good thing for the new year to talk about. And knitting goals, and other goals as well. So next, we'll talk about the year in review from a knitting perspective. This year, I've bought less yarn. I didn't buy no yarn. I did buy some. Most of it was a goal for me to buy less yarn this year, just to buy less of everything this year. And I did pretty well for the most part. And there was actually one month, I think it was September or October, where I did not spend any money at all on anything craft related. No yarn, no books, no spinning fiber, no paper or picture frames or sewing fabric, or, you know, any kind of tools or equipment or supplies. Zero. And I think that is the first time since I started keeping track of my budgeting, which has been at least 20 years. So I was really proud of that month. Could I do it again? I hope so. I hope so. I mean, yeah, I'm not doing my part to stimulate the economy, but I'm doing my part to preserve my sanity, let's say. Yeah. Um, so I did buy less, and what I bought mostly was intentional. When I did buy yarn, I bought some yarn to make a retirement gift for a friend. Actually, two friends. Um, and one's coming up in the future. One has already retired. So I, yeah, bought yarn for those projects. And one of the yarns I'm still not 100% sure about. I have to swatch with it yet and see if it's really the right yarn for the project I have in mind, or if I switch projects. And I have time to figure that out yet. I was thinking about one project. I won't say what it is, just in case she watches this. But I could always change my mind on that. We'll see. So yeah, the yarn purchases were intentional, either for commissions or for specific projects. And I did a pretty good job using up stash yarns. This is old stash yarn. This is old stash yarn. This is newer old stash yarn. So yeah, and it was really satisfying to go and dig through stash to come up with projects. So that was a good thing. Let's see. Oh, and the Gibb sweater, the Andrea Mowry sweater that I did, that was a knit along that worked out well. That was her March to May knit along. I might do that again. We'll see where I'm at in March. But yeah, so it was very satisfying to use up stash yarn because, I bought it for a reason. I bought it because I liked it and maybe had something in mind, maybe didn't. So it was good to be able to do that. So as of today for the year, and I get in it's the 28th. I've got 28, 29, 30, 4 days left. 4 days is a lot of time to hunker down and do some knitting or crocheting. So I do get in a spurt at the end of the year to try and finish things up and reach a goal. And this, as of today, I have used up just shy of 9 pounds of yarn. So I will hit the 9 pound mark. I will make sure that I do enough work to get to that 9 pound mark. Can I get to 10 pounds and even 10? Depends. If I finish a very old project known as the red sweater to many of you who are my fiber friends, if I can finish that one, which I can't really because I need to have another try on. It's not for me, it's for someone else. But if I get close, So if I finish a sweater type project, I would for sure get to 10 pounds. I've got some other things that I might, that might get me there. We'll see. That's a big ask. But 9, for sure, I'll get to 9. And I know this because I keep track on a database. I've had that going since pre-Ravelry days. I've had a log of what yarn I've used and how much I've used, what projects I've made. I just, it's the statistics person in me. I had just a little bit of statistics in college and data analysis and that was part of my job for a long time, doing all the financial reporting and record keeping and that. And I like doing it. I'm a numbers geek that way. So yeah, so I keep records of what I've made, and yeah, since before Ravelry. And so I actually need to update my Ravelry records. They're not as accurate as as my own Excel spreadsheet. So this year I made, are you ready? It's actually not a big list. But 161 cat toys, 2 pairs of socks, 5 Christmas ornaments, 9 hats, 1 patch. I'll have to look back and see what that patch was on, but I made a patch something, 2 sweaters, 2 adult sweaters, they were for me, 2 cowls, 4 pair of baby booties, 1 baby sweater, which you saw in episode 1. I need to make more of those. 1 bag, which I didn't get a chance to show at all. That was a project. And I started a podcast. So that's a part, starting the podcast, that's a big year for me. So, there's a lot there. That's a lot of work. There's a lot more unfinished projects, though. And that's really one of my goals for next year, is to keep finishing projects and rather than starting new ones. A long, long time ago, I made a goal of, I always start out the new year, finish 2 projects before you start a new one. Well, that really didn't work because I would, finish a little bitty project like a pair of baby booties, and then I'd start a sweater, or I would work on something and I'd finish it. So then I'd start a little project so that I could call that, I'm going to finish this one too, and the big projects didn't get finished. I would start and finish a lot of little things. So that start 2 to finish, or finish 2 to start 1, that's a fool's errand for me. It doesn't happen. But when the pandemic hit, I had a real, and I think I mentioned this before, a real urge to finish a lot of projects. And I don't think it was a subconscious thing about, oh God, time is precious, I think was what the message was there. And here I was homebound and sitting in the house with all of these projects, and this is crazy. Let's get some of these done. So I had a really good push to do that. Did a bunch of finishing. So I'd like to take that into the new year and finish, all of these kinds of things. Oh, here's a hat that I haven't even showed you. I make a lot of these Voyager caps. I could talk about that in a historical knitting episode. Just finish up projects and not start too many new ones unless it's for a good reason. Because I have just about every type of project on the go, except maybe for baby projects. But I have at least 1 sweater for myself. No, at least 2, maybe 3. 2 for sure. Sweaters for myself on the needles. I have hats on the needles. 2 pair of socks. The tessellated is actually, I think I said that before. It's number 2 on the sock list. So, and I hope to finish those socks before the new year, because they're at a heel shaping on sock number 2 right now. And so once I get past that, I can mindlessly knit down to the foot and, get those off the needles pretty quick. But what else? There's a lot of knitting on the needles, sweaters for other people. Then I'm trying to think, and that's not. I get overwhelmed by all those projects. Then there are weaving projects. I have, and I want to talk about this in a future episode, but I want to get the project finished before I talk about it. It's a blanket that I'm making with using the Pinloom squares. It's turning out really great, I think. Um, so, and all the squares are woven. I'm just sewing it together. That's the challenge right now. So I want to get that done. I have a weaving project on my loom, my table loom upstairs, that it's years and years old, and it's towels. Those need to come off so that I can use them. And behind me, you can't really, it's right down here. See that? That's the top of my floor loom. So I'd like to get another project put on that. I haven't used that in years either. And yeah, so weaving, it would be good to get back to. Spinning, you know, try and see if I can get better at what I'm doing and see what my mistakes are. I'd like to take a class, a remedial class again, and yeah, maybe I just need to start over from square one. Yeah, so that'd be a good thing. Another goal I have is to, well, okay, knit from stash, reevaluate the stash, you know, maybe let go of some of the things I know I'm never going to use. That's hard because I start looking, and what happens is I start trying to figure out new projects. Yeah, so there are certain times of the day, usually 4 a.m., if I'm up in the middle of the night, where I have a very clear head and I can focus and just go yes, no, and purge. And maybe that's what I need to do, is plan that time to wake up at 3 a.m. and go and be critical about my stash. We'll see. It's cold up there at 3 a.m. It's upstairs and the heat's off at that time of night. So yeah, not a good winter project. So there's that. I also want to write up a few of the patterns that I have designed over the years. Something, I mean, this is pretty simple, but it could be written up as a pattern. I started with that Barocco pattern as inspiration, but this is pretty much all my own effort, as far as a design goes. And there are other things that I've made, some crochet projects and some bags and things like that. So yeah, to write those up and either put them on Ravelry, or I have an Etsy shop. I haven't done very much with it this year, but just, to make them available one way or another. I saw a call for submissions recently, and I thought, I think I have a project that would work. So, just getting that written up, which would mean making another version, because it's been a while since I made that one, and it was just sort of a impromptu thing. So, getting that reworked and written down, that's a good project. And just, yeah, working on other projects. The sewing. When I get to sewing, I realize how much I really enjoy it, and I just haven't done it often enough. So do a little bit more sewing. And I have ideas and projects lined up for that too. And hack a lot of clothes that are too big for me now, or that just need to be something else. So, yeah, those are ideas for next year. And I also, declutter, not a full-blown Marie Kondo tidying up, decluttering. I could never be a minimalist. No, that makes me uncomfortable. But there are definitely areas that need to be, sorted through and organized better. And once that happens, things are in their proper places, it'll be better. And I realize sometimes that you never finish that either, but I hope to every time I do get an area organized, like I did my kitchen counter a few weeks ago, because I had to put new lights in, and I've kept it cleaned off, and all the little things that usually pile up on a counter, they're not there. So that's one step at a time with those things. But not beat myself up about it either. I think I read Marie's book and I didn't care for it, honestly. I thought it was very, you must do this, otherwise you don't succeed. That was the impression I was getting from it, and I'm not that hard on myself. And one of the things, as far as winter and hibernating and kind of taking care of all of these inside chores, I wanted to mention this book. I'll show you, I should have picked this up earlier. I'll show you a photo of it. Here we go. Agree. Let's see. Okay. It's called There's a glare from the glass, the window. It's called Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Catherine May. And this was published in 2020, and I listened to the audiobook version, I think in 2021, in the fall, right before, as we were going into the winter season, or 22. I really liked it. I got a lot out of that book. It was, just why we slow down in the winter, why animals hibernate, why we need to hibernate, we need to pause. And sometimes we do it because of a seasonal change. Sometimes we do it because of an emotional or mental event. So she explained a lot, and it's not a how-to book. It's not, here's what you have to do to successfully relax or, refocus, regroup. No, it's not like that at all. It's her experiences with pausing, with stepping back and taking a breath. But she talks a lot about the things that happen in the winter, the stillness, the events like the solstice and some of the Christmas events and Advent events, and how to be active and how to be passive. Like one of the things she did, which I'm very admiring of. I don't know that I would ever do it, but she went and gradually did swimming in the, I want to say ocean, but it was probably, just outside of, I can't remember where she lives, but in England. She's British. So, whatever body of water she had, if it was a channel or if it was the ocean, I'm not sure, or a sound or an inlet. But to go and work her way up to doing winter swimming. And I like to swim a lot, so I really enjoyed hearing about how she trained for that and her focus. And, it wasn't easy, but it was something she wanted to do. And how that affected her, her mental and emotional state. So, yeah, just, it's that time of year when we pause and look back and look ahead all at the same time. So, with that said, I hope that you all have a chance to pause a bit, look back with joy, with accomplishment, anything. There are a lot of accomplishments, that we can find if we look hard enough. And, look ahead with promise. I don't like to make too many resolutions at this time of year. It seems like I make them more often in the fall, because that's more of a distinct end and beginning too, where we have, school starting. I don't have kids or it's just that calendar. The harvest is happening and it's over, and yeah, so I'm not too concerned about making resolutions and sticking to them, but just it's visiting my goals. But that being said, we'll have a little New Year's celebration, a giveaway for New Year's, giveaway number 5. And to enter the giveaway, as usual, please send me an email to livelearnknit@blogspot.com. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong. That's the address of the blog. To enter the drawing, please send an email to livelearnknit@gmail.com and sign up before the end of the day on Tuesday, January 9th. You can put giveaway number 5 in the subject line. You could tell me if you like. You can just say I want to enter the drawing, but if you'd like to say what you look back on in the year and what you look ahead for in the next year, that would be fun. Can be knitting related, can be something else. We all have different goals, different ideas. And for this drawing, since it is a New Year time, I don't know about you, but our family, we always would get a copy of the Old Farmer's Almanac for the year, next year. A lot of times it was somebody's Christmas present, so we'd have that, and it was, almanacs were just a part of life growing up, and looked at them constantly throughout the year for the gardening, for the moon phases, for the astrology in them. For now, they're chock full of more articles and stories and that than they used to be. The Old Farmers is anyway. But it's still fun to read and look through, and there's recipes in there and contests, and they're usually pretty good. So with that in mind, I am giving, I have a spare, I'm giving a copy of Elizabeth Zimmerman's Knitter's Almanac. And this is the paperback version. You can still purchase this today. This was written many years ago. And I just want to read you the very first, and it is month by month, and she's got projects for every month, ranging from, she starts out with this beautiful sweater, Aran sweater, look at that, with a cable I believe that she designed. And I have always wanted to make that sweater. I haven't. I've made several things from the Knitter's Almanac. I've made this double knit baby blanket. There's the February baby sweater, which is very popular, and it was turned into, by Pamela Wynn, I believe, the February lady sweater. And let's see, then she's got a Fair Isle sweater. Mittens, I've made both of those mittens, the chevron version, and I made the colorwork version. Those are fun projects. Here's hats. This is this one, the Gnome hat, and that's another version of it. Yeah, those are fun. That is the best. Yeah, it's a fun hat. I want to make this one, the Maltese Fisherman's hat. I have not. So maybe that'll be a hat that I try and make this year. Summer, she gets into more making, here, because May is called Mittens for Next Winter. So yeah, she's thinking ahead. Shawl in July. I'm not a lacy knitter. It's not my thing, really. I'll do it occasionally, but that's an amazing shawl. Little Christmassy stuff for when you're on vacation and it's too hot in August to hold much yarn in your hands. Let's see what's, oh yeah, I really want to make those someday. I don't know. She calls them nether garments, and my nether is a challenge. I'm not sure they wouldn't be flattering. They wouldn't be something anybody would ever want to see, but they just look so much fun. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a Ravelry page of a woman from Madison who made a pair and did them all in Fair Isle, the little Peary patterns, and they're stunning. Yeah, it looks like a great project. So those look fun. Here's an open collared pullover. This one is maybe the one thing in the book that looks a little dated, but otherwise, you know, these are pretty classics. Here's socks, moccasin socks, and I believe, you know, it's a special trick on how she does the foot. I have not tried those yet. Now this one, last minute sweater. What does that look like? Doesn't that shaping remind you of the Carbeth sweater? It does to me. And this is knit in a bulky yarn because it's, yeah, hurry up because you need a gift for somebody you forgot about, or you just need to do it fast. Yeah. So, and then she's got, you know, some technique stuff in the back too. But I'm going to read you this, the beginning, couple sentences here. It's a classic. It's not just a knitting book. It's knitting and life, which is always good. So it says, once upon a time there was an old woman who loved to knit. She lived with her old man in the middle of a woods in a curious one-room schoolhouse, which was rather untidy and full of wool. Every so often, as she sat by the warm iron stove or under the dappled shade of the black birch, as the season might dictate, she would call out to her husband, "Darling, I have invented something," and would then go on to fill his patient ears with enthusiastic and highly unintelligible and esoteric gabble about knitting. At last one day he said, "Darling, you ought to write a book." "Old man," she said, "I think I will." And so she did. And I believe that was the Knitter's Knitting Workshop. Or, what was the first one that she wrote? Knitting Without Tears. I think that was her first book. But this. So it's all full of little, you know, charming narrative like that, of what they do on their vacation, where they go, and why she's, you know, planned the projects that she has. It's a gem. It's everyone should have Elizabeth's books. So this, to get you inspired for the new year. Then, to get you inspired to knit something, this bundle of mini skeins, and these are, I believe they're 1 ounce each. The label says 100 grams, but I think they're 20 or 28. I have one that I wound into a ball. But this is Sueño Tweed, and I dropped one. Sueño Tweed is a blend of 69% superwash merino, 16% viscose from bamboo, and 15% of viscose flex. The Tweedy Flex are also viscose, which is another name for rayon. And rayon, if you don't know, is a fiber that is made from cellulose, from a wood. And I think, you know, bamboo, just another, they'll say bamboo, but they're meaning rayon because they've turned it into rayon. So there's, yeah, 10 colors here, and you can decide what kind of projects you want to make. You can make it all in one, make little things. Whatever. Enjoy. I will say that Sueño, because it is bamboo, and it's superwash, it does have a tendency to grow. I am making a sweater, working on a sweater with it. I'm trying to knit it at a tighter gauge so that it might not grow as much, but I'm kind of factoring that in a bit. It's hard. I did a swatch and washed it, and it did grow a bit. So for what it's worth. But, you know, you could do a shawl or a scarf with these, and it'd be okay if it, you know, size wise. And then the last thing, part of the giveaway is a knitter's journal, and this is my design. This is another Shutterfly project that I did. I like these 5x8 spiral notebooks, and so I put one of my knitting projects on the cover, and so it's a blank book inside. It's lined pages. You can use that for record keeping, projects, notes, what have you, tallying. I still like to tally by just making hash marks on paper rather than the clicker, the counters. They're okay. They're okay for me for short-term projects, but long-term I like to, just do that. Have notes. So yeah, so these things, giveaway number 5. Yes. And again, enter the drawing by Tuesday, January 9th at end of the day. livelearnknit@gmail.com. And I think that's it for today. Yeah. Everyone relax. Enjoy the last few years as the old year exhales and the new year draws breath. And we'll get through it all. It'll be great. Whatever life has to throw at us, we're makers, we're creators, we can adapt to anything, right? Right. So, good. It's all good. For sure. Thank you very much for joining me on this, I was going to say excursion. Endeavor. There we go, endeavor. Yes. It's been fun, and I've enjoyed meeting new people along the way, and I hope to meet many more. And yeah, there will be learning next year on Live and Learn. There will be techniques to talk about. So stay tuned. Thank you. Happy New Year. Take care. Happy knitting.